Hello again, everyone. I see people are coming back to the second session. Today is the second day of Peralta Online Equity Conference, and we opened up it with a great session, opening keynote session from Michelle Pacansky-Brog. We talked about humanizing in the AI era, and now we're going to continue talking about humanizing online classrooms for equity. And this time we're going to have Christel Young. Dr. Young is here with us today, and she will be talking about from inclusive to belonging, humanizing online classrooms for equity. Before I pass the microphone to her, I would like to remind you a few things about today's session. This session is being recorded, so if you don't want to be seen in the recording, please turn off your webcams. And we are using Zoom captions. If you look at the bottom of your screen, you will see Zoom captions window. You can show or hide the captions as you wish. And please stay muted throughout the session. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to use the chat. We're gonna direct your questions to Dr. Yang towards the end of the session. So Dr. Yang, if you're ready, I'll pass it over to you.
Thank you so very much. It is truly my honor to share in this space with you all today. So good morning, afternoon, evening, or simply good day to everyone. I'm not sure what time zone everyone is in, but I'm Dr. Christel Young. I'm the site director for the Blue Sky Tennessee Institute, which is a partnership between Blue Cross Blue Shield of Tennessee and East Tennessee State University, where I am an assistant professor there in their computing department. And I'm thrilled to be with you for this important conversation on equity. My hope is that you will see the connection with the previous conversation. And today's topic is from inclusion to belonging, humanizing online classrooms for equity. Now, we often hear terms like access, inclusion, and belonging used like interchangeable buzzwords, but they're actually very different stops along the journey towards equity in higher education. Access is being invited into the room. Inclusion means being acknowledged when you're there. But belonging, that's when someone saves you a seat and says, "We're so glad you came." In our time together, we'll explore these distinctions and, more importantly, talk about the practical, people-centered strategies to move our students from merely existing in our online spaces to truly thriving in them. So I'm going to tell a little story real quick. So when I started my doctoral program, I was pumped. Dreams, check. Drive, check. And a backpack full of highlighters, double check. But also, I was full of questions. It was an online program, and I didn't know a single soul. No welcome committee that said, "Hey, we got you. Let's do this together." It was just me, the pandemic, and a learning management system that felt more like a maze than a map. I pushed along quietly, clicking through modules like a ghost with a GPA. I showed up on Zoom, hoping someone would say, "Hey, what's your name?" But the chat was dry, the vibes were cold, and group projects, you probably just would say that I was a team of one. I tried. I sent those brave little notes. "Hey, you want to connect?" And I got crickets. I really, truly, and honestly started to feel invisible. And this is a true story about my journey. Until one day, a student named Afia replied to one of my inbox messages. Just a simple, "Hey, let's connect." But y'all, that message was like a lifeline. From that point on, we were in it together, and we actually wrote about our journey of becoming sister docs. We made a promise that we would not finish without each other, and we didn't. Through late night, ugly cries, messy drafts, and therapy level pep talks, we pulled each other across that finish line. She became my sister doc, And here's the wild part. To this day, I've never met her in person. But what started with one simple yes became a bridge from surviving to belonging. And that's the power of connection and online learning. That's the difference between being included and truly being seen. All righty, so I need a little bit of engagement because I want to see you all. If you could pull out your phones, or you can use your device that you have. I have a question. What do you think of when you think of the word belonging? What word do you think of? And so here are the directions. If you will text CY or C Young 010 and join, and then your message, your word to 37607, or you can scan the QR code up here in the corner and I'll make it a little bit larger for you. What is one word that you think of when you think of belonging? And you can submit more than one word, but what's a word? Family, comfortable, togetherness, acceptance, included. Yes. Yes, yes, and yes. Safe, togetherness, acceptance, and acceptance without stipulations. Welcome, essential. All righty, I'm gonna kind of leave that up a little bit. If you want to still respond, you can. We'll flip back to the presentation. So all of those words are valuable, but here's where we're going to shift gears just a little bit. So we talked about what connection feels like, but let's break it down. So access is getting in the door, and inclusion is having a seat at the table. But belonging is feeling like you take your shoes off and exhale. There are many spaces that we don't, if we think about where we show up in the spaces that we occupy, there are not many spaces that we can actually take our shoes off or would feel comfortable taking our shoes off and exhaling. So in the online space where faces are tiny and mics are muted, creating belonging takes intention. It takes heart, and it takes a reframe of what our actual goal is. We're not just trying to make room. We're trying to make students feel like they actually already belong in the space. So let's talk about access. That moment when a student is finally able to say, okay, I'm in. That could mean they got accepted, figured out financial aid, or managed to register in the 3.5 minutes before the system crashed. But access is more than logging into a student portal. Walker 2018 reminds us that access is shaped by both the systems around us, like policies, money, and power, and by our personal stories, like the grandma who said, baby, you're going to college whether you like it or not. But and I'm going to butcher the name, I'm gonna try my best. Katame Key and Kyla 2021 push us even further, saying access isn't just about getting in, it's about making sure students can stay in and succeed once they're there. But here's the hard truth. Some students are still stuck outside the door, blocked by things like income, geography, race, gender, or even a mix of all those things. That's just not a missed opportunity. That's an equity failure. So access is step one. It's the key, but it's not the whole house. And we want to get them the entire home. So once a student walks through the door, then what? That's where inclusion comes in. It's not just, yay, you made it. It's we see you, we value you, and we've made space for you to thrive. Originally, inclusive education mostly focused on supporting students with disability, but today it's much bigger than that. Alties and colleagues 2024 describe inclusive environments as places where the tools, the vibe, and the culture are all aligned to support every learner. The Oxford Review calls it learning together. Same space, same expectations, same respect, regardless of background, ability, or identity. Now, let's be real. Inclusion isn't about giving everyone the same thing. I know we've seen the cartoon where everybody is behind the fence. They all have the exact same box and they're trying to watch the baseball game, and only two of the three can see the game. But inclusion really is about giving folks what they need to succeed. And some key ingredients are seeing diversity as a superpower and not a problem, dismantling broken systems and not blaming students, removing roadblocks before students trip over them. Inclusion says you're not just here, you matter here. But belonging takes it one step deeper, and that's where we're headed next. So now we've swung the door wide open. That was access. We've invited folks in and made room. That's inclusion. But here's the thing. No one wants to stay at a party where they don't feel wanted. Belonging takes it further. It's about the heart level. I see you and I'm glad you're here. Allen et al. Said belonging shows up when students feel connected to peers, staff, and the school itself. They feel safe to be present, speak up, and here's the big one, just be. They feel valued for who they are, not just what they do. See, diversity, not just toleration, but celebrated is what we need for true belonging. Tinto called it a generalized sense of membership. And it's just a fancy way of saying you feel like you're part of something real. But Goodnow said it plain. Belonging is about being welcomed, respected, and encouraged in your school community. Belonging doesn't ask students to conform. It creates space for them to flourish as their full selves. All righty, we have another one. So far, we've covered how access gets the students in the door. Inclusion helps them find a seat at the table. But belonging, that's when they feel like they matter. It's less about policies and more about people. It's where connection, trust, and identity come into play. So let's pause here and unpack the difference together. I actually am going to leave this open for the duration of the conference and a little bit afterwards, so those who watch it afterwards can see it. But I'm going to put this link in the chat also. All righty. Oh, see, it moved a little bit more. I love the accepted. All right, so what does belonging look and feel like in a long online class? What do you think? And to do the Padlet, just in case you may not know how to do it, I assume nothing. You literally just click anywhere in the screen and a box will open and you can start typing there. Active engagement, dynamic group activities. Feel free to make connections and respond to what has been posted. Weekly welcome videos, yes. Transparency, absolutely. Students know why they are doing the things that they're doing. Yes, absolutely. All righty, I'm gonna let you all continue with that, and I will continue with the presentation, and we actually may have some time to come back. All righty. So let's talk about how we actually build belonging in online classrooms. Research shows us there are 5 big ingredients, and y'all, this isn't just theory. These are practical, doable things that make students feel seen, supported, and safe. And the biggest one, I would probably say, is clear communication. Let's be honest, when you're online, clarity is kindness, a welcoming syllabus, clear grading, and consistent communication. That's the holy trinity of online course space. Number 2, representation. Students need to see themselves in the material. Diverse authors, examples from multiple communities, and content that gets where your students are coming from, that says you belong here. Then some interaction. Let's get them interacted. And I know a lot of asynchronous courses may be limited in how much the students interact, but there is some interaction that can occur in those spaces, even beyond the traditional discussion board. We're not meant to learn alone in a digital cave. Give students space to collaborate, share stories, and just be human with each other. Like I said and shared with my story about my sister Dot, we've never met, but we built true, real connection and a friendship, and I consider her my family. Number 4, flexible assessment. Not everyone shines on a multiple choice test. We know research says that may not be the best way to assess knowledge. So let students create, reflect, connect content to their real lives. That's how we turn assignments into meaning making. Number 5, and this is a real stickler for me. So when I was teaching my graduate students, I was teaching them how to teach courses. Personalized feedback, that was the key. This is one of my very favorites. Like, hey, Jordan, I can see you really pushed yourself on this one. You connected the readings in a thoughtful way, especially that part about an insert, whatever it is. That's the kind of comment that is basically an academic hug, and it matters. It lets the students again know that they're seen and heard. All right, so then we have elements that actually detract from belonging in online classes. So on the flip side, these are the things that sneak in and quietly tell students, this isn't really for you. You don't belong. All right, and so we want to avoid these. So number 1, rigid policies. You miss the deadline and get a 0, no questions asked. That doesn't say we believe in your potential. That says good luck, figure it out. Number 2, lack of representation. When every reading, every example, every voice comes from one worldview, and it doesn't matter what that worldview is, but it's one in particular, students start wondering, is there a place for me here? Number 3, limited social interaction. Listen, nobody thrives in a post and ghost discussion board. We need more than just the thread. We need threads that connect people. Number 4, impersonal feedback. Good job. Needs improvement. Okay, but on what? Where do I need improvement? How? Why? Feedback should feel like a conversation, not a formal letter. And number 5, technical barriers. Let's be real. If the tech is more complicated than the content, we're losing people. And if students with disabilities can't access the course fully, that's not a tech issue. That's an equity issue. All right. So a little activity that I would love for anyone to unmute and engage with me. I have some case studies. Would you feel included? And I want us to think about what we could do better or ways that we can improve on the things that are good in the case studies that I'm going to show you. The first one, and I normally do not read what's on the screen, but I don't want to assume that everybody can clearly see it. But this is a deadline policy. All assignments must be submitted by 11:59 on the due date. Latest submissions will not be accepted under any circumstances. Technical difficulties are not valid excuses for late work. I'm pretty sure we all know that that's not a good policy. So how could we improve it? Does anyone have any suggestions or ideas?
I'd take off the last two sentences.
Okay. And replace them with what?
Nothing.
Okay.
Maybe they can say, sorry, yeah, maybe they can say, I understand you have a lot of things going on. So if you have any difficulties, contact me in advance so we can come up some solutions together.
Thank you.
One thing that I may put is if you need an extra day to submit your best work, then go ahead and do so.
Thank you.
Michelle also,
Yes.
her hands up. Yeah, Michelle, go ahead.
I let students know that the deadlines are they're like speed bumps, that they're goals for them, but I also want them to do their best work. So that I'm very flexible with deadlines, and the only time it's a problem in my class is if it becomes a pattern. Then I want them to meet with me and we talk about how to stay on track. But I stay flexible with deadlines because I want students to focus on the learning and what they're doing and not the stress of trying to turn in something that isn't their best work because that deadline is hovering over their heads.
Wonderful. Thank you. You got a yes with the hand raised in the comments. Bravo, Michelle. Place focus on success and learning, not success in meeting deadlines. Dr. Kerr Sims says sometimes the university, and this is the big point, the LMS is down. We must account for that at least, because sometimes it is down. Half point, Laura said half points if it's late. Good solution. Yes, thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, so the next one. Name policy. Ooh, this is a touchy one. Students must use their legal name as listed in the university system. No exceptions will be made. This policy disadvantages transgender or non-binary students who haven't legally changed their names and international students whose names may be difficult for the instructor to pronounce. How could we provide solutions in that space? Feel free to unmute. I'm one of those in my online class. Y'all just unmute and jump in.
Yeah, so personally, I prefer to give students a pre-class survey. So at the beginning of semester, I will ask them, what do you prefer me to address you? Yeah, and try to memorize them, although it's difficult.
Absolutely. One of my biggest things is I've seen students who may be from another country, they will shorten their name so that it is, so that others are able to say it. One of the things that I try to do in my space is honor names, because as simple as my name might seem to others, it's just Christel. It is mispronounced so many times. And I encourage them, if they would like for me to, I learn the correct pronunciation of their name, and I use that if they're okay with that. Because a lot of times what I found is the only reason why they use a comfortable name, if we may, is because no one takes the time to learn the correct pronunciation of their name. And so I want to honor that space for them. All right, we're going to move on to the next one. And this is office hours. Office hours are Tuesdays and Thursdays from 2 to 3 in my campus office. This policy doesn't account for online students in different time zones or students with work or family obligations during those specific times. And no virtual options are provided. So how can we fix that?
So my hours should just be a Zoom and they can schedule whatever time they want.
Wonderful. Suggestion in the chat is to use Calendly, which I use a lot. The other thing I do is in my online classes, I will schedule what I call Zoom drop-ins. And they are just like after hours, like a doctor's office might have after hours on some days. And then I do some drop-ins during the day in the asynchronous class sections, especially. And during those times, I tell my students in advance, I don't care what you're doing, just show up, especially if you need help on an assignment. But then you don't have to show up to ask anything about any of your work. Just show up and we can have a conversation. So I had one student who showed up and she was at the salon in the stylist chair having a conversation. She turned the camera on. I talked to her. I talked to her stylist. We addressed her needs, and it was one of the best connections that I could have made. So allowing students to show up however they are and wherever they are, I think is very, very critical. I like the idea, Arnita, of community hour. Awesome. Thank you. And I see the comments. Y'all keep them coming. Keep them coming. I'm going to read every one of them. All right. The next one, accessible material. And I think this is kind of going to be the last one. Course videos include captions but lack transcripts, making them partially accessible to students with hearing impairments, but creating barriers for students who benefit from reading the content. The professor acknowledges accessibility, but does not fully implement comprehensive solutions. What do we think we could do there? I mean, I see the simple solution, but are there any other ideas? Okay, so I'm gonna state the obvious, provide the transcript. I think that's a good way to fix that one. All right. I'm gonna skip these two because we've offered some great solutions so far. All right, so humanizing strategies that work. Let's talk about the good stuff. The stuff that makes students feel seen, heard, and valued. And we're not talking about just showing up. We're talking about showing up on purpose. Personalized communication. So presence and personalization, big. Personal communication, names matter, details matter. When we reference their actual work, when we remember that their grandma was in the hospital last week, students feel that. I remember on one of my feedback, we call it SAI, but feedback at the end of the semester, one of the students' biggest comments was that when they had a severe injury, I continued to reach out to them and help them along. They knew that I knew who they were, and this was an asynchronous course section. They knew I knew who they were. I knew their circumstances, and I helped them navigate that space. And they were actually able to finish the course. A little humanity goes a long way. And yes, our stories as faculty count too. When appropriate, sprinkle in a little, I remember struggling with this concept in grad school too. Number two, multiple communication channels. Students are different. Access is different. Comfort levels different. So give them options, a quick video. I loved what our keynote said today with the double, I forgot what it's called, but the double AI. Give them a quick video, a quick note, a voice note, a message board thread, whatever makes the content and you feel more reachable. Pro tip, all right? Audio feedback is like leaving them a mini podcast episode of encouragement. Student voice, number 3, student voice and choice. This is a big one. If students help shape the class, they'll feel like it's theirs. So give space for their experiences. Let them choose how they show mastery. Ask for feedback and actually use it. Number 4, regular and meaningful instructor-student interactions. It's not enough to be available. We've got to be present, whether it's a quick check-in, a reply in the forum, or an I see you email. Students know when we're really, really there. Hey, Jordan, I loved your comment about X. Can you say more next week about that topic? That's how you go from silent screen to supportive guide. This moves them from passive consumers of knowledge to active partners. The next one is culturally responsive content. Let's dive into how we can create an environment where all students feel like they truly belong, not just exist in the classroom. We're talking more about not checking the boxes. It's about making sure every student's voice is not only heard, but actually honored. Diverse representation in learning materials is not enough to have a token reference here and there. We need resources that represent a true variety of perspectives, whether it's reading from authors of different backgrounds or media that shows different identities and stories. Students should see themselves reflected in what they're learning. For example, you can put in your syllabus, this article by X really speaks to the experiences you all have shared in the forum. Let's dig deeper into how this fits into the themes that we're discussing. Next, inclusive language and framing. We all come from different walks of life, and we can't assume that everyone shares the same cultural context. Be mindful of the language we use and the assumptions we make. If we reference something culturally specific, let's break it down so no one feels left out. So we might say, I know this term may be new for some of you, so let me give you a little background. Next, we can acknowledge different cultural approaches to learning. Not all students approach learning in the same way, and it's actually okay. In fact, it's powerful. Give them space to connect to the content in their own lived experiences and cultural contexts. Let their background inform how they engage with the material. And lastly, critical engagement and content. Encourage students to look critically at the content and question dominant narratives. Explore how power and privilege influence what we know, how we know it, and who gets to decide. This just isn't about questioning. This is about empowering students to see themselves as co-creators of knowledge. And then feedback. Feedback with heart. So we want to balance critique with affirmation. Highlight what they did right. Everyone loves a good high five, even if it's virtual. Turn those oops moments into growth opportunities. Use language that says, you've got this, I believe in you. And yes, be real. Honest feedback fuels growth, but we can still be kind about it. Personalized, specific guidance. No one size fits all here. Make feedback as unique as each student. Give examples that actually help them to improve. No vague comments allowed, and connect it to what they've provided you with where you would like to see them go and grow. Tie feedback to their previous work, things that they've done before or things that they've mentioned before, so that they can see how far they've come and see how it connects to them as a person. Suggest resources to help them level up. We're all about that growth. Have a dialogic approach. Feedback isn't a monologue. You're not talking at someone. Let's make it a conversation. Ask questions that get them thinking deeper. Give them a chance to revise. Feedback is a chance to shine. It's not just a checklist. Create a back and forth so they feel heard and involved. And then we're going to go back to that multimodal feedback. Sometimes a video or a voice note does more than words on a page. Let's get personal. Annotate their work directly to show exactly where they're nailing it and where they can improve. For big feedback moments, hop on a quick video call. Face-to-face or screen to screen can make a huge difference. Peer feedback also is like a mini community. So allow them to give feedback to each other and build fresh perspectives. Right? Any questions? All righty. Keep going. So I know I'm preaching to the choir here or speaking to a room full of champions of belonging. But here's the real question. What's one thing you can do to take it up a notch? What small change, big idea, or new practice can you try to make your courses, or can you encourage others to make their courses feel even more like a place where students truly belong? Let's push ourselves because the work isn't done and the impact can make this huge. So are you ready to take the next step? I would love for you to share one thing that you'll commit to trying to do in your next course by entering it on this Padlet. Right, I'll flip back to here so you can scan the QR code. And it only takes a spark. So I'm just looking for that one thing we can commit to. Sending reminders, that's a big one. And I'll share one that I try to do the day before, at least before an assignment is due. If I see students who have not submitted their assignment, I try to go in and send them an email or connect with them and say, hey, I know the due date is coming up. Has anything come up that would prevent you from turning this in on time? Let's have a conversation ahead of time about that. Ooh. Yes, yes, yes. Snaps on the library of some effective feedback. All righty. I know this next slide says questions, but I would like to make space for you all to unmute, make comments, share your connections with what I've shared, or critiques. I'm open to critiques, but let's share this space together in the remaining time that we have.
it's been really, really great. Thank you. I'm a grad student in adult and other education. I'm also an instructional designer, so a lot of this is really passionate for me. And so this really relates to UDL 3.0 update that just came out as well. And there's a lot of belonging focus within that. And you really hit the nail on the head with this. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And I'm reading through the comments. If there's anything, a question that I missed, please bring it to my attention. Feel free to unmute.
Dr. Ang, we see a lot of appreciation in the chat, which is great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'm not sure if people are still typing their questions, or maybe we should give 1 or 2 more minutes. But as Dr. Yang said, feel free to turn on your microphone and ask if you have any questions. And in the meantime, I would like to thank you again for this inspiring session, and thank you for feeling comfortable to share your story, personal story, as well as you started with your personal story. We really appreciated that. And I believe so many people are or have been in your position. You're not alone in that, right?
Yes.
And I also would like to highlight one thing you said about we should make our students feel that you're not just here, you matter here, right? So that is kind of the mindset we should have as we walk in our classrooms all the time. And another thing I appreciated is 5 elements that contribute to belonging. Those slides, certainly we're going to go back to those slides and take notes again. 5 elements that contribute to belonging and 5 elements that detract from belonging. So thank you very much for sharing all these useful tips. And I'm looking at the chat again. Yes, we don't have any questions.
All right. Well, I'll share really quickly, if you don't mind.
Please.
Equity isn't just about removing the barriers. That is important, but we have to build bridges once those barriers are removed. And that's a wrap. I know we're all on the same page when it comes to building belonging, but let's keep the momentum going. And now, before you head out, I really would love to stay in touch. If you just want to continue the conversation or even send a virtual high five, I am all about connecting. And hey, if you're an instructor in any college environment, I've got a research study going on right now about AI in academia. It's a 5-minute research study, and it'd be awesome if you would take part. Your insights will help make a big impact on this work and some other work that I'm doing. So it's on my LinkedIn, and you'll find it on my Blink QR code here. So let's make some magic together and keep pushing for belonging.
Thank you very much for that final note. And everyone, thank you again for being here. Don't go anywhere, because at 11 we are having another session from Amy Ord from University of Nebraska-Lincoln, and she will be talking about digital accessibility requirements. So we hope to see you all at 11. Oh, also, Dr. Yang, one person asked in the chat if they are able to have access to your slides. Would it be okay?
I will. I'll get the slides to you all.
Thank you.
It might be next week, but I'll get the slides.
Take your time.
Thank you.